We have listening to The Answer, call us on the Morning Answer all the time, small and medium-sized business owners here in California. Can a significant tax issue, unresolved, kill a business?
Of course. Much like a non-tax issue that's unresolved can kill a business. Businesses have to understand that there are collection efforts, taxes or otherwise, that can really hamper the operations of any business. And so part of what we have to do is we have to diagnose the problem. And in order to diagnose it, they have to come see us before they're on their deathbed. So what we need to do is see what we can do to fix it.
Right. Don't get diagnosed at stage 4, quite candidly.
That's exactly right. Because there's some things we can't fix. So people have to recognize that they have a problem, much like it would be an addiction, where you have to recognize you have a problem early enough so that it doesn't take you over, doesn't take over the business, doesn't take over your thinking.
There are a lot of people, and Peter, you can jump in on this if you'd like to. There are a lot of people driving around listening to us on a Sunday morning here in Southern California who have to be thinking, you know what, because I was this person. I haven't filed for 2 years. Okay, now it's 3 years I haven't filed, but I haven't received a letter. I'm okay. Is that true?
I just got an email yesterday from a client that said, and she owes a little bit under $300,000. The email came in and said, well, I got the notice. It says $82,000. If this is all we owe, then why should we do a bankruptcy? Not that it's a small amount of money,
right?
But for $82,000, they were willing maybe to do an installment agreement or pay it out or take some other action and not do a bankruptcy. So I wrote back because I happen to know the father got in the middle of it, of course, and I happen to know him because he's a tax client. And I said, if you didn't get the notice, you must not owe it.
Ah.
And I said, only kidding. Here's what she owes.
Oh, right.
They don't send notices unless, but annually, unless there's some action on the account. So in this case, she had an overpayment when we finally filed her delinquent 2010 return, and that $4,100 got applied to the earliest tax year, which was 2005. And that's why the notice came. So it went down by $4,100, but you still owed $82,000. And of course, if I didn't get another notice, I must not owe it. Right. Not true at all.
You're listening to The Tax Show here on The Answer. Peter Stephan from the Tax Resolution Institute and Jim Felton from Greenberg and Bass. Sometimes the notice that people get, Peter, is a wage garnishment. Sometimes the real wake-up call is a bank levy. When people contact you at the Tax Resolution Institute, check them out online at taxresolutioninstitute.com or call them Monday morning, 800-658-7590. How easy is it to get a garnishment lifted, a bank levy removed? And does it happen quickly, typically?
Well, if we have a prompt and cooperation from the client, we can typically get a wage garnishment removed within 48 to 72 hours. On bank levies, pretty much the same thing. Here's what people need to know about bank levies. For federal levies, the bank actually holds on to your funds for 21 days before they remit it to the IRS. Once it goes to the IRS, well, that's a much more difficult problem. So if you get a bank levy, what needs to happen is you need to call us right away. We need to get in front of it, and typically we'll get some or all of the money put back in your bank account and establish a reasonable installment agreement so you're not broke.
And here's a great opportunity to give the phone number. The number to call that Peter just said is 800-658-7590. Why would you sit there with the IRS or the Franchise Tax Board taking your wages away from you? They can put an end to it. 800-658-7590 at the Tax Resolution Institute.
Brian, one other thing about wage levies and wage and bank levies. When they levy your wages, they could take as much as 75% of your wages. When you add the federal levy and the state levy, you're taking home hardly anything. So it's important that we get in front of this quickly, get an appropriate installment agreement or currently non-collectible status positioning put in place so that you don't have to worry about your paycheck being levied, because the employer is going to send the money to the IRS. If they don't, they're responsible for your taxes.
Jim Felton?
Brian, what you're hearing on both of our sides of the aisle, so to speak, is early diagnosis, early recognition, and early action, because we are severely hampered if we're called too late. If Peter gets notice that they've got a problem with their taxes, he can do something about it before there's a wage garnishment or before there's a levy. If I get a call about a bank that's threatening foreclosure because someone hasn't paid their mortgage, then I can do something about it. But once foreclosure starts, it's that much harder.
You have found the Tax Show every Sunday afternoon at this time. Wow, time flies when you're talking tax resolution. Unbelievable. Peter Stephan from the Tax Resolution Institute. TaxResolutionInstitute.com, TaxResolutionInstitute.com, or call them Monday morning, 800-658-7590, 800-658-7590. We'll be back next weekend every Sunday afternoon at this time throughout tax season to talk about your tax problems, to talk about how you might go about resolving tax issues that are currently unresolved. Guys, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
For Peter Stephan and Jim Felton, I'm Brian Whitman. Thanks for joining us on The Tax Show.
Thanks, Brian.